We are here today to talk about visually branding Agnes Scott College. And I want to put the emphasis on the visual branding here. We're talking about our assets like our logo, sub-brand, color palettes, that kind of thing. We're not going to be really talking about writing style or brand statements or that kind of stuff. We're going to go over what is new from last year, timeline, how stuff needs to roll out, and we're going to go over some branding basics that pertain to the college and how to use the various assets that we have, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So why now and what's new? The why now is a pretty easy question. Generally, when an institution or a corporation starts to go through a rebranding process, you kind of want to do as much as you can all at the same time. There's a lot of heavy lifting involved in doing work like this. And the more you can consolidate and condense, just the better and the easier it is. You also cut down on sort of brand fatigue for your outside audiences. So they're not seeing, maybe it's a new website here, and then 6 months later, oh wait, the logo changed, and then another 9 months later, wait, now their colors are different. That's very confusing for external audiences. So it makes a lot of sense. Let's do everything together in one big push. So that said, let's go into what's new. There we go. Okay, so obviously one of the big things that's new is our logo. Now, to a lot of you guys, this is going to look pretty similar to what we had before. This is not a redesign. This is what I would call a refresh. Lots of you were involved in focus groups and discovery groups for us when it came to redesigning the logo, for which we are very appreciative. And thanks to coronavirus and all things pandemic, that kind of ground everything to a halt. And college leadership felt that given everything that was going on and the stressful situation we're all dealing with, that our students are dealing with, this was not the right time to suddenly go, ta-da, here is a brand new Agnes Scott. So what we did instead is we have scaled back, and we have tweaked the logo a little bit so that it is a little bit easier to read, especially at a distance if it's used on banners. And we have removed the arches. The arches were kind of a big sticking point. We had a lot of folks who didn't know what the heck they were. Was it grass? Was it fireworks? Was it a fountain? And we also had a lot of our student body felt that the arches had a very Christian connotation, and then they felt that wasn't really representative of who our student body is. So we've gotten rid of those. Doing that actually makes the logo a little bit easier to work with from a design perspective. It's more compact, it takes up a little bit less space, but especially here, this allows us to use it in a way where we can display the logo a lot bigger without it, so it's easier to read, but without it feeling really kind of gross. The next biggest change is to our color palette. So we all, as you've seen with our new website, we have a new purple. The previous purple, its name was PMS 511. PMS stands for Pantone Matching System. Our new purple is PMS 267. And if you want to, you guys can write this down, but this is also all available on our website. So don't worry about that if you feel like I'm going fast on that. So we have our brand new purple, and along with our purple, we have new supporting color palettes. So this is the full supporting color palette, our primary color palette. When you are designing something or creating something, you are going to want to keep our main color being purple. However, we know just everything all purple all the time is really overwhelming. So we have these additional supporting colors here. We have some bright options for you. Those of you who know some color theory, purple and yellow, purple and orange look really jazzy and bright and exciting together. We have some more subdued options. Now, to support all of that, we have a much more robust secondary color palette. And this is divided into brights, really bright, bold colors, and softs, nice and pastel colors. So the thing to know about these is these are sort of your accent colors. When you're designing, again, you're always wanting to go back purple, 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 purple as Agnes Scott. So for example, you would not design, let's say a postcard that is primarily red. That would be like Harvard, for example. What you are going to do, these colors are here to help you use as accent colors. Do you want to highlight a date in orange? Do you want to highlight a significant speaker's name, you know, in this kind of teal color? So, and then here you can see everything all together. And what you are going to do here, this kind of gives you a visual representation of how you should be using these colors. So again, purple is always our primary predominant color. You can back it up with some bigger accents in these 4 colors, and then you have this additional, more robust color palette to provide just a little extra sort of life and sparkle to the design that you do. What you should not do, however, is, let's say, you know, I really love this green here. What you should not do is sort of pick a secondary color to be your office or department color. Everything, again, everything we do is in support of the college, and so our primary color is always purple. And these are just brought in sparingly as accents. Let's see, next we have an updated sub-brand. Now these are just drafts. This isn't necessarily final, but this is what I hope will be final. The major difference between the previous sub-brand and the new sub-brand, we've tweaked the fonts a little bit, so there's a little bit more movement within the office or division name. And we've switched to a much more longer horizontal arrangement, which I think is going to be a lot easier to use when it comes to flyers and posters. So we I don't have these ready for you all yet. Obviously, they do need to be approved, and then I have to go create them for everyone. So in the interim, what I would suggest is it's perfectly acceptable to always default to using just the institutional logo. That is never incorrect. And you could certainly then typeset, you know, sponsored by the Office of Communications and Marketing, for example. So next, let's get into timeline. Let's talk about how are we going to roll all of this stuff out. Generally, when it comes to rebranding and rolling out new brand assets, we want to spend as short amount of time as possible with your old and your new out in the same world, in the same space. Again, it's confusing to your constituents that you're communicating with. Which one is the real Agnes Scott? However, we have to be realistic about everybody's workloads and budgets and that sort of thing. So here are some things you could definitely do right away. And by right away, I mean start working on them. I don't expect this to be done by tomorrow. And so that includes anything that's digital as well as new printed pieces. So I've got a few examples. If you're going to be giving a presentation within the next few months, let's say it's over Zoom at a digital conference, and it's on a topic you've talked about before, so you already have your PowerPoint, you just need to update it with some current information. Do you need to use the new branding for that? You've already made your PowerPoint. And the answer to that is yes, you do need to go through, and we have a new PowerPoint template. And you want to make sure you're using the correct logo and the correct brand colors. And hopefully something like that is a pretty small update. Another example, say you work in an office where you guys are going to be mailing out postcards to students because nobody's on campus right now. This isn't something you've done before. You're not pulling from a stack of printed postcards that's in a cabinet. So you have to create new artwork. Should you be using new branding for these? Yes, definitely. You want to use the new branding. There's no reason not to do that going forward. So let's talk about those already existing stuff, that stack of business cards in your drawer, brochures, if you've got a pile of letterhead, you know, when do you want to start using new items there? That is going to be within something you should be planning on updating within the next fiscal year. So business cards are a great example because we have folks on campus who blaze through them, and we have folks on campus who like give out, you know, 10 a year. So let's say you've got 100 business cards, usually use about 50 in a year. So when do you need to get new business cards? What I would recommend in most cases is that you can use your current business cards for the rest of this fiscal year. When we hit June 30 or July 1, any remaining business cards you have, or stationery, letterhead, that kind of thing, you will need to recycle and order new items with the new branding. If you run out of business cards, you know, 2 months from now, obviously when you order new business cards, they will have the new branding on them. And another example, so I know we've got a lot of offices who try to print enough of certain items to last them for a year. So let's say your office has got 200 brochures left. You know you usually use about 800 in a year. What should you do in that situation? What I would do is use up your remaining brochures, get them out there. While you are using those up, you should be updating your brochure artwork with the new logo and the new color palette, so that when you are ready to print, in December you need to print some more, the new brochures you are printing have the new branding. Okay, so now we are going to, excuse me, before we jump onto that. So the other thing that folks should start thinking about, and this is probably going to take a while, is any of you who have partnerships with third-party vendors where they may be using our logo somewhere. So slowly try to start making a list and make sure you're getting those folks our updated logo as well. And that's something that I anticipate is going to take a while, as you were like, oh wait, I forgot that so-and-so uses our logo. We just did that with the AJC Decatur Book Festival, for example. We realized they had our old logo, so we got our new logo to them. So that's something that's going to take a while, and you'll even notice, like for example, the Irvine. I haven't had a chance to update that to our new brand colors. It's on my big list of things to do, but it's something I would start working at now. Let's see, as we switch into visual branding, I want to go over really quickly kind of what a brand is, at least from a visual sense. And there is generally, a lot of people make the assumption that your logo is your brand, and your logo is definitely not your brand. A logo is a brand asset. It is one piece of your brand. Same thing for your color palette. Those are assets of your brand. Same for the sub-brand, etc. And the reason that we have these rules or guidelines about branding is that it is important that our branding be consistent across the board. A good example would be, if I say Coca-Cola, most folks are going to think red, right? They're not going to think hot pink. If we say Carolina, talking about a university, most people are going to think Carolina blue. And that part of that is having a consistent brand builds up this consistent, the viewpoint that people have about you in their minds. So we go back, we have our logo again, which you've all seen, our new logo. And so here are some guidelines when using the logo. So generally when you are using the institutional logo, you can use it in our purple, you can use it in white, which would be reversed out over a darker color, or in some instances a photograph, provided the photograph is not conflicting with the legibility of the logo, and you could use it in black. That's it, no other colors. Here is some stuff I don't want to see with the logo. And some of these are a little bit exaggerated. One thing I see a lot of is somebody places the logo in whatever software they're using and the logo gets squished, you know, or scrunched or stretched. So you want to pay attention that the aspect ratio of the logo stays the same. Like we just talked about, we shouldn't be using the logo in any color other than purple, white, and black. And then this is sort of a twofer here. This is not how you would use a logo over a photograph, one, because we're covering the main subject of the photograph, so you can't see it. And two, because the background of this photograph is so busy and we have these light and these dark areas, it's almost impossible to read the college name, so we don't want to do that. Some other examples. Don't add text onto the logo. Kind of don't make your own sub-brand, maybe. Along that same line, don't add pictures to the logo. You really want to give the logo some space and some breathing room. There generally shouldn't be any words, other logos, other images squished up way close to the logo. And another thing I see occasionally is don't try to recreate the logo yourself. This here, I've just typed it out in Plantin, I think, which is one of our fonts. And you can see, you know, it's close, but it's not right. What you should be doing when you use the logo is to use files that you get from the Office of Communications and Marketing. How do you get those files? That's a great question. You can get them either by emailing anybody in my office, or you can go to our website, agnescott.edu/MPR. That was when we used to be marketing and public relations. And on there is a brand guidelines section, and there is a logo section that has both versions of our logo. Generally, there's not a preference for which logo you use. You should, again, just pick the layout that is going to work best for your situation. You can also send vendors here if they need a logo. You'll see down here we have a whole variety of types of logos based on how they need to be used. Colors, color profiles versus also usage types. So that looks kind of overwhelming. So let me break that down for folks. So how the heck do I know what logo I'm supposed to use? So generally, if you were going to be working with a professional designer or printer, this would include anybody if they're going to do t-shirts, silk screening, or embroidery, as well as companies that do promotional items. You're going to want to download a vector file. And those generally are going to end in .eps or .ai. And this is considered the sort of industry standard. This produces the cleanest, most crisp file type, so that whatever you are having produced is going to be, you know, kind of this top quality. If you are creating something that you are going to run just on the printers on campus, so if you're doing posters or flyers, bookmarks, you know, whatever, you are going to want to use a PNG file. And if you are pulling them from the website, you'll know you have the correct one because it's going to contain print in the file name. And the benefits to a PNG file is that they have a transparent background versus a JPEG, which would place the logo in like this big white box. And then if you are designing something to be used digitally, whether this is a PowerPoint presentation, something that's going to go on the website, something you'll use on social media, you're also going to want to use a PNG file, but these ones are going to contain digital in the file name. And you want to make sure you're using the ones that say digital. if it's going to go online, because those have been saved specifically to have a smaller file size, so that they load quickly. If you were to print something using a digital PNG file, it's going to print low resolution and it's not going to look very good. So that's kind of the distinction to remember there. So then we're going to go back to our sub-brands. So given that these are drafts, these are just sort of some recommendations, we will be having a sub-brand sign-up form that'll be in the Irvine, and then hopefully in the next few days, where folks can sign up to get their sub-brand requested. How do you know if you need a sub-brand or if you should use a sub-brand? Generally, well, I'll say across the board, all academic departments and administrative offices should have a sub-brand or can use a sub-brand. Again, it's never incorrect to use just the institutional logo on a piece. However, if you do feel like you are designing something that needs to be affiliated with your office, you do need to use an official sub-brand. Please don't make your own sub-brands. That is not what we want. That pulls us outside of that branding consistency that we're looking for. So if you have a current sub-brand, please don't go change the color on your own. If your office name changes, please don't try to recreate your own. You always want to come to us so that we can get you the right sub-brand that's set up properly and is in the file type that you need based on how you're going to use it. So colors, again, we have our colors on the website. It looks like this, and they're broken out again by primary color, primary supporting colors, and secondary color palettes. But you'll notice they have all of these crazy letters and numbers and stuff next to them, and you know, what the heck does this mean? So as a quick overview, we start with our Pantone colors. So again, PMS stands for Pantone Matching System. It is a sort of worldwide industry standard way of identifying colors. Most of you are not going to be ever needing to use a specific Pantone color. That's used when we print things like stationery or business cards, silk screening t-shirts, and promotional items. And that's something called spot printing, where a printer is actually mixing up a custom blend of ink to be our specific purple. You typically, that's only used if you're printing 1 to 2 color jobs. So again, this doesn't apply to probably the vast majority of what folks on campus are going to do. If you are designing something to be printed on the campus printer, you're going to want to use the CMYK code, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And that is sort of a build-up of colors that's going to give you the closest approximation possible to the Pantone color. So this is anything that has a photo, full color photo in it, just anything that you are printing on campus, or even if you're sending it to one of our off-campus vendors, you're going to use CMYK. And then the third color space we work with is hex, or sometimes you'll see it referred to as RGB. RGB is the same as hex, it's just a different way of identifying the color code. So a hex code is what you will use if you're working in websites. It is a code that tells the computer how to render a color on screen. So you're going to use hex codes in your PowerPoint presentations. You can input a hex code if you're making a graphic for social media, that kind of thing. And again, just like when we talk about the logo, you want to use the right color for the right output method. So if you are, if you create something in RGB and then you send it, let's say you use an off-campus printer, they're going to have to, their printer is going to convert that automatically into CMYK. And we don't want to do that because a lot of times the colors can get really screwy, and what you get back from the printer may not look like what you had on your screen at all. So that's where you want to be kind of careful. Generally, if you design something in CMYK and then decide you want to put it on, really you're just gonna use it in social media, a lot of times then your colors are gonna look much more dull and faded than if you had designed it using RGB or a hex code to start off with. And again, this can be a little bit overwhelming, but don't hesitate to reach out to me. We can figure out, you know, what makes the most sense for you depending on your situation. Let's see. So again, that's where they live on the website, same URL. So we get into our fonts. The good news here, our fonts have not changed from what we've been using. Again, we have 2 tiers of fonts. We have our primary fonts, which are Gotham and Plantin. That anything that comes out of my office or any other communications office on campus is going to be using these. If you would like to use these fonts, you will need to purchase them, purchase a license to use them. And there are links to where you can purchase those on our website. However, most folks don't have the budget to do that. So we have our secondary or tier 2 fonts, which is Trebuchet and Garamond, and those should be available on all college computers. So no huge changes there. Let's see, the seal hasn't changed. Seal probably won't change ever. Just a quick overview, the seal is really only used by the Office of the President for things like the inauguration, commencement, those kinds of things. That's not something, we just don't kind of slap the seal on whatever we want to do. It's held back for special ceremonial occasions. Let's see. Then athletics. I'm not sure if Josh is here today. So one thing I do see a lot of is sometimes I see people using the athletic logo when they should really be using the institutional logo. The athletic logo is really only reserved for things related to athletics. And I'm not going to get into their branding system. If you feel like you have a situation where it would make sense for you to be using athletics branding, you need to contact Josh Cornwall in athletics, and he handles all of that stuff. So, but that's just, again, if you want to use this, odds are you probably shouldn't use it. You should probably be using the institutional logo. All right, however, that doesn't mean we don't have Scotties for you guys to use. And here's another example. You'll notice I have not updated these Scotties. Their scarves are the wrong purple. So this is one of the things on my list. But we do have Scotties available for our community to use. And I kind of divide them into 3 groups. We have our Scotty Silhouette, who's our sort of most refined, classic, you know, our show Scotty, so to speak. We have our community Scotty. The benefit to this little guy here is that this portion underneath, we can swap out what that says. The top always needs to read Agnes Scott College, but the bottom, we do these for orientation. We've done them for SGA. We can do all kinds of stuff provided it fits in there. And then we have our most flexible Scotty, which we call our DIY Scotty. And this guy's like a paper doll. There's all these assets that go with it. So the Scotty can hold signs, it can talk, it has speech bubbles, it has hats it can wear. It can hold a mic, it's got an iPad, just all kinds of stuff. And we also use it, you know, folks have come to me for Community Day one year. We had the Scotty holding a shovel and a flower pot. So this one's our most customizable one. You just kind of let me know what you need, and we'll see if we can make it happen. So we're going to segue a little bit. This is related to visual branding, but this is sort of visual branding for the virtual age, as we are all remote and all digital right now. And the impulse, which I totally get, is folks want to stay and keep designing things as if they were still print items. But right now we're not printing a lot of stuff. And so we need to kind of rethink how we create certain materials. So some things to consider. First of all, do you need to print that? We are not in the office together. Our students aren't on campus. You may be better served, and you're going to save some money by turning a print piece into something that could be an email blast. Maybe it's a social media campaign, or is this really content that needs to live on the website so that people can access it as needed? The other thing to really think about is accessibility. Our flyers that we see on campus, which are beautiful and lovely, work great as printed pieces. But when you take that same flyer and you use that in social media, you put that on your website, or you put your JPEG flyer in an email, those flyers suddenly are not readable by anyone who needs to use an assistive device, and they're not readable by search engines, which means that information can't be crawled by Google or whoever, whatever other search engines are out there. And so whatever info you have on your JPEG, such as dates, times, speaker names, none of that is accessible to search engines if someone is trying to figure out, wait, when is this event? When am I going to get there? When do I need to show up? That sort of thing. So in order to make your content accessible, both to people who need to use assistive devices and to search engines, you really need to be using HTML, which means your text is actual typed in text, either in a website, in an email, in your social media posts. And that helps you reach your widest audience possible. So here's an example. This is a print ad from many, many years ago. So excuse the old logo. So let's say you use this as a social media push, or you put this in your email that you send out to campus. So those of us who are typically sighted are going to be able to read this and look at the photo and get the information we need. However, anyone who uses a screen reader or any search engine is going to get this, and they're going to get a big fat nothing. So if you've put your Zoom link into a JPEG, or if you've put the date and time of an event into a JPEG, it's like you've almost erased that information. So instead of doing this, what you really should be doing is this. So you can still have a dynamic and exciting image. And I would even, you can throw the logo on there, but really your copy needs to come in and be actually part of your social media post, or it needs to actually be part of your web content or part of your email message to make sure that everybody has access to the same information. And that's just kind of a best practice. And this is something that we are really prioritizing with the new website, but we also need to prioritize this as we promote our events and our programs through other venues. And so coming soon, what can you expect in the future? And I'm seeing some questions come up about this. So we will have soon, I hope, some of these items are still waiting on approval, is digital templates for folks. So we'll update our digital letterhead. PowerPoint, that one I actually have it. I just don't have it up on the website yet, as well as a few other things. All my summit folks, I've seen you there in the chat. We are going to have some conversations there about how we're going to handle summit assets going forward, and how can we take this time, because this is really the right time to go through and really shore that up and tighten it up. Stationery, obviously we're going to have new stationery hopefully soon. So for those of you who are ready to order updated stationery, you will have that ability. And then, as I mentioned previously, a sub-brand request form. So you all can put in, hey, I need to update my sub-brand. I want to set some expectations on getting those out to you. Right now, I just did a quick look. We have about 60 active sub-brands, and each set of sub-brand files that I create takes me about 45 minutes. So I calculated if I did nothing but sub-brands nonstop, just to redo the ones we exist, is probably about a week and a half's worth of work. And I do anticipate that we'll probably get new folks who don't currently have a sub-brand who want them as well. So we're going to be working on those as quickly as we can, but it's not just a quick, I can't just snap my fingers and get you a sub-brand right away, unfortunately, as much as I wish that I could. So it's time for the Q&A. Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. So, okay, let me scroll back up to folks and keep putting, if you have a question you haven't asked yet, keep putting that in the chat. So Jasmine was asking, how will the logos look with the departmental names, and are there still Summit designated colors? So we saw the proposed sub-brand, Jasmine, and we'll get those out to people hopefully as quickly as possible. In terms of keeping Summit designated colors, I don't have an answer for that one yet, but that is definitely on our list of things to sort out. My indication is that we will, what I would prefer to see is that we don't keep those designated colors. They were chosen when Summit looked very, very different. And I don't think they serve the purpose they were intended to anymore, but obviously that is not, I can't say that that's going to be a thing for sure. Liz Bagley, when you say what is the font, do you mean for the logo, or what are our fonts that we're using? If you mean for the logo, our logo actually doesn't use either of our tier 1 fonts. Oh, okay, great, Liz. Well, I'll let everybody know. Our logo is actually typeset in a different font than either of our tier 1 fonts. Which is another reason why you can't just type our logo out. You can't recreate it. Let's see, Jen Kennedy. Yes, that will be updated soon. Jen asks about our current toolbox still has the old digital letterhead with the arches. So yes, that will be updated soon. And the new PowerPoint will also appear on that same page, Jen. JLP, I will check that out after this, thank you. Mashama, will all of the Summit badges and bugs be revised? I don't know, to be honest, Mashama. That is something that's up for discussion, but hopefully we'll get that clarified pretty soon. If you feel like you currently, you're doing something where you want to keep using them right now, I think that's fine. China, do we need to order new name tags? Yes, folks are going to need to get new name tags, but I think that is something that, again, you have throughout the next fiscal year to do so. Is Canva Anna asks, is Canva updated with our new colors? Anna, do you mean Canva or Canvas? Canva is a online design software, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. My understanding is we don't have an official institutional Canva account, so it would be up to you to update the colors in Canva yourself. If you mean Canvas, I'm not sure. I haven't logged into Canvas in quite a while. Oh, and then Jennifer Duncan says, Anna, if you put the hex, it gets very close. Yes, this is correct. And Canva is one of those ones where they probably primarily have you working in RGB regardless, or hex codes, regardless of whether you're going to print something, which is a whole other issue. JLP has a good tip for those working in Canva. You can program your brand colors so you don't have to enter them repeatedly. I'll give a plug for those of you who your institutional account includes access to Adobe's Creative Cloud. You can do the same thing in Adobe Spark. Adobe Spark is like Canva. You can go in, set up all your brand colors and fonts and that kind of thing. So as you're using their templates, you've got access. You don't have to keep uploading things over and over. Rafa, are there pre-made slides for the PowerPoint presentations? Yes, so typically the PowerPoint templates, Rafa, are going to include your header slide where you can put your presentation title, subtitles, speaker names, date, that kind of thing. And then the interior slides generally all just have the same header, and it's up to you to go in and customize those yourself. The colors are set, the font is set for you already. JLP, yes, we are going to get updated Scotties with the correct purple bandana. For social media posts, Grace asks, should we be doing image descriptions below captions, etc.? I would say yes, that's an accessibility thing. And again, as long as your images also aren't full of all your text, you would be including that text automatically. But an image description of what is happening in the image is also beneficial as well for those who use screen readers and assistive devices. And thanks to JLP for some good examples there. All right, Robin Hart asked about Scotty Swag. So Scotty Swag is in the process of being refreshed. So I can talk to you a little bit about increasing the options that we have. So at Keras, they want to know what you want to see. And they are going to make decisions on what they offer kind of based on demand. Obviously, they can't just offer 100 different varieties of t-shirt if they're not going to sell. But I know they do want to hear from you guys if there is specific stuff that you really want to see. And they will be updating their swag with a new logo, with the new brand colors. Follett also sells some stuff on some of our stuff online, and so they'll be updating that as well. With Follett, I think we have a little less control over what they offer. Just what they offer is what they offer, you know. So we'll see. I haven't found them to be as amenable. They kind of have their standard staple, and if they don't think it's worth it to offer different items, they're not going to do it. Leanne, yes, I can give you the RGB numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head right now, but I can email those to you. But if you're doing stuff in Word, Leanne, or PowerPoint, they do also let you put in the hex code as well. And I can send you a
does not take the hex number.
Do you have an old version?
Apparently.
You need to update your Word. But I'll send those to you. And stationery, we can talk about getting your stationery ordered. Jasmine is asking about the sub-brand request form. I don't have that yet, Jasmine, but hopefully it'll be in the Irvine early next week, so you can submit that request. Leanne asks, yes, I can do that, Leanne. So right now, if you download, what Leanne's asking about is, can we have a version of the logo in white with a purple background? I can add that. Right now, if you download those files, it's just white with a transparent background. But we can add that version. Casey, is there a typical font that is used online? We would not change it to Trebuchet or Garamond. So Casey, that's going to depend. For our website, we do have specific fonts that are used on the website, and you will not be able to change those. If you are doing something like an email blast using something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, you should use Trebuchet. That is typically one of the widely accessible web fonts that we use. Garamond isn't, so in that case, you could switch to something like Times or Georgia. That's probably going to give you your closest equivalent. JLP, yeah, so for Gmail, we have people use the sans serif because that's just the versus Trebuchet, because I think that's going to be displayed the most consistently across a whole variety of browsers and email platforms and phones and tablets, etc. Whereas Trebuchet or a specific kind of named font may not. Casey, when you say third-party sites, is that in reference to doing stuff on websites, posted. Okay. We may talk, Casey, about those. I may need to know just the specifics of what you're working on, and then we can figure out the best way to move forward with that. Oh, awesome. Okay. So I think I've gone through all the questions. Again, if you guys have questions about any of this, you could reach out to myself or anybody else in marketing and communications. We're happy to walk you through a lot of this stuff so that you're kind of making the best decision and that you're getting the best product that's going to work the best for your situation in your communication needs.